All right, welcome everyone for joining us today for our last part of our AI Appetizer series. Those of you that are joining us live today, if you want to put in the chat your name, where you're from and what you do, we welcome you to our session today. And seeing some familiar names on here that have joined us through this series. So excited to see you and welcoming you to this beautiful sunny day. Hopefully it's sunny where you are today as well. Our link for today is going to be that bit.ly link that you see at the bottom of your screen. So it's bit.ly/AI inclusive, and it's all lowercase, and you can access the resources here. And then they'll also be shared out afterwards and be located on our Padlet screen as well. So super excited to having you all join us. See Judy's here, Angie's joining us, Kathy's back again, and let's get ready to dive right in. So we're running a little different today. So Holly, I appreciate you clicking the next slide so we can continue on. So for this last part in our 4-part series, we are going to be focusing today on using AI to support every learner in whatever capacity that may look like. So we're going to talk about some different ways that we can shift our thinking and our lessons and activities. And then, of course, we have to throw in some of those resources that you can take back and start using in your own classroom or sharing with those that you work with. All right, we'll go to the next one. So thanks for saying hello in the chat. And I'm going to ask if you want to unmute or share your thoughts in the chat on our first thought question for our series today. So thinking about including and using AI for every learner, what's one challenge that you believe students face that AI could help them with? So feel free to put that in the chat, or you may unmute.
You know, one of the things that you've shared along the way in this, there's app or anyhow, a site to go to where they can get feedback for doing writing skills. And I find that very impressive because writing on those Ohio tests is just necessary for them to be able to do. And for them to get the feedback right away, I think it's just wonderful.
Thanks so much, Kathy, for sharing that. Yes, one of the new ones was that Conmingo writing coach that is available, and that's a super awesome resource. Anyone else want to share? What's a challenge you think students face that AI could definitely help them with? I see some of you are typing in the chat there. We've got idea starters. Even for us as adults, that's such a huge win. Chunking text into smaller parts with guiding questions. Love it. Feedback that can be immediate, inspiring creativity, breaking down assignments into smaller steps, getting complex tasks like organizing ideas for an essay. Love it. AI allows students to have equal access to assistance. Yes. So many things that are out there. And when we're talking about every student today, I'm going to kind of go the whole gamut. So we're talking about students that may struggle or have accommodations, and we're going to cover some things that you can utilize for that end. And then also challenging students. So your students that need to be challenged and go that next extra step so that way they can really use their critical thinking processes as well. Love it. Keep adding those things in the chat. Excited to see more people are jumping on here too. We got started, so we're going to keep moving on. So for the next part here,
morning, Christine.
Imagine this.
Here's your good morning.
Sorry, that's okay, Holly. And so this next piece, I want you to imagine all the great things that AI can do for you. And here's a great glimpse of what that may be.
Good morning, Christine. Here's your classroom update for the day. Attendance is ready. I've already marked who called in sick, so no need to worry about that. Student pullouts at 9 a.m. Susie, Johnny, and Seth will be out for intervention support from 9 to 9:30. I'll remind you 5 minutes before so you can plan accordingly. I've created personalized learning activities for each of your math groups, all centered around real-world problem solving for the school carnival. Group 1. budgeting for carnival games, calculating costs and setting prices. Group 2, probability and statistics, analyzing past carnival turnout to predict attendance. Group 3, measurement and geometry, designing booth layouts with scaled drawings. I've already assigned the activities to Google Classroom, so your students can jump right in. I've provided feedback on the paragraphs your students wrote yesterday. Their comments are ready for them to listen to, and they can begin editing their work when they arrive. And Christine, your coffee is ready and waiting for you in the teacher's lounge. Have a great day. You've got this.
So that's the best part right there. The coffee's ready and waiting for you, right? How many of us would love that? Well, it's really not that far off. And when you think about the availability of using AI as an assistant for yourself to do all of those things, it's huge, and it's growing every day and changing every day as well. But the piece that we still have to think about, and some of you may have been thinking about in the video, is like, well, wait a second, it's creating these differentiated activities for my kids. It's already assigned it to Google Classroom, but wait, what is the activity? It just gave me a snippet of it. So we still have to have that human interaction piece where, yeah, it'd be great to have this assistant, but we still need to be involved in that process. Feedback for our kids, great. It's ready and waiting for them to see what it is, but I also need to know what their writing samples looked like. So we're meshing together that human aspect and leveraging the use of AI to help us with that. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the encouragement. Yeah, they could use it to talk to each other and all those things too. So how many of you think that you would love one of these AI assistants to kind of help you in your daily routines, whatever your role may be? You can give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat. Yeah, okay, we see some of them are in there. Great. All right, Holly, we're going to go on to the next one. So thinking about hiring those AI assistants, be it ChatGPT, be it any of those different resources we've covered in our last sessions, and some I'm going to share with you today, they can all start to support us as educators and leaders, as well as supporting our students in their everyday learning that they are doing as well. All right, we'll go to the next one. So when we talk about supporting every student, we know this is nothing new along the way here. And we've been doing interventions with kids and pull-out groups and all the different supports that we're providing for them. And yes, as an educator, it can be super hard to support all those kids when you have 24, or if you're middle school, high school, you have over 100 kids that you have every single day. But it doesn't have to be. And that's where I really want you to think about today of how can I start to use AI to help me overcome some of those obstacles when I am trying to support every student where they're here or they're all the way up here kind of way. All right, we can go to the next one. And this is nothing new as well. So we know like kids learn in different ways. They're motivated by so many different things, and they're not a one size fits all. They love different things just like we as adults do. We learn different ways, and that's something that we really have to think about. But with the help of AI in today's world and using some of these different resources, it can really motivate some of our kids. It can really change their outlook, and it can really support them with where they are at that level. Okay, Holly, you can go on to the next one. So here's what I want you to start to think about. These are not anything new, especially if you've been in education for a while. You know that we're differentiating for our kids and we're trying to match the learning styles and multiple intelligences that they have. But here's where I start to think differently about it. So how can you start to use AI, something as simple as ChatGPT, to help meet those kids and bring music into the classroom? We can ask it to create songs. We can use Suno to create that song for us, as we saw in one of our other sessions. How do we incorporate our lesson and bring it outside to our kids? Use AI to help support in planning that activity where we're taking our kids outside, doing hands-on learning experiences. What about movement, right? How do we leverage movement into these things? These are all places where sometimes our minds get stuck what I have no idea how I'm going to bring, learning about plate tectonics to my students and involve bodily kinesthetic movement into that, right? It's not something we just think of off the top of our head. So using these different AI tools can really support and help us very quickly come up with some activities we can do with our students. All right, we can go to the next one. So this is the big shift that we see happening. And this is the big conversation I've had with numerous teachers when they will say to me, well, how do I know if kids are using AI to cheat or they're using it to create their paper? And this is where I always come back to, what can we shift? What can we adjust in how we're assessing our kids or how we're planning and working through the learning process with them? And that big word is change, right? And you may have heard like this educational shift happening because AI is now involved in that. So we can use AI to leverage and adjust our teaching practice. You don't have to do something new. You don't have to recreate something, but we can fine tune it using AI to meet those needs of our kids of where they're at. And then we can modify and transform that using the AI tool to make learning more meaningful and memorable for our kids and reach them where they're at. Okay, go to the next one. So here's where that shift is taking place and where AI can really help support this. I know this is not AI related content, but this is big content when we talk about making learning stick for all kids and making it something that's engaging for them. So I put two models in here on this slide. So the Ohio Personalized Learning Framework and the gold standard for PBL from PBL Works. So when we talk about shifting our instruction and what that looks like, these are two great models that really kind of overlap on each other of how we can meet kids no matter what level they're at. Both of them start with a driving question, basically, right? So there's something that ties to our content standards where we really want to focus. The next piece is having it be learner driven, student voice and choice. They're asking the questions. We may be modeling for them how to use AI resources such as Byte, or if they're old enough, ChatGPT, to start asking and doing the research on their own, using AI as a tool to support them. And then the big piece I have over circled on the PBL one, that sustained inquiry, because kids and adults, we have to know how to ask really good questions, right? And that's going to drive the critical thinking skills and those pieces that are going to move them to the next level. So there's so many pieces embedded in these that you're already doing in your classroom. And a lot of the teachers I've worked with, especially with PBL, will say, it's really hard to like bring together math and social studies and all that and make it into a PBL or personalized learning unit. But this is the exciting part. AI can help us do that. And it can really help alleviate the process and thought process it takes for us as educators. Yes. Okay, cool. Let's go on to the next one. I saw Jason's comment in there. Yes. So many cool things with this. We'll go on to the next slide. Perfect. Okay. So I wanted to give you some resources, again, of how do we meet these kids. So I'm going to start with our students. Of course, this one can be used for any level of student because you can adapt these materials using this resource. So there's a really awesome tool I came across that is specific for planning PBL type experiences. It's called Mastery Mate, and I linked those things in there. The picture is linked that takes you to that activity that I designed, and it also links you to the Mastery Mate website. It's free right now. So for those of you that say, I've always wanted to do PBL and I've wanted to change how I'm instructing my kids, but I just don't know where to get started. In a matter of probably 5 or 10 minutes, I created this activity. It's called Earthquake Resilient City Design. And some of these things aren't new. Some of you are doing projects like this already. But what was great about it is I told it that I wanted it to focus on the 8th grade Ohio science standard that they're learning about plate tectonics. And after I plugged that in, it spit out a ton of ideas for me. And it says, you approve which ones that you really like. And so if you click on that, actually, Holly, can you click on the earthquake design? Because I think it will take you out so they can see it in more depth. Perfect. And so you can see, I asked it to make it a 5-day project. You could ask it to be a 1-day project if you wanted to. It could be a 2-week project, whatever it is. But here are the things that are involved in PBL. So you start with that question. So it gives us the beginning driving question, and it will, you can just scroll down through there and it would be fine. It shows all those things. And then it focuses on those other pieces of the curriculum that I'm going to cover. There's my standards that it aligns to. But the big piece with any of these PBLs is keeping kids' interest and driving that piece. I love these entry events. Some of them I would have thought of, but some I wouldn't have. And you have the availability as the educator, of course, to pick what you like. Here's the steps that they can come into. It has scaffolding built in for your students. So that way, what am I going to do with them? How are we going to get to that final design process where we actually make a city that is not going to fall over in an earthquake? So I'm teaching the content. I can pull in math standards, I'm sure, as well, where I can do some measurement with it. I didn't ask it to include that, but I definitely could have. So in a matter of moments, it's created for me the rubric that I can edit. It's created for me the activities. And then I am ready to dive right in with my kids and make it something that's fun, engaging, and hands-on as I work through. So that is such a great example of something that you can do with it. And then I just want to mention one other piece, since I'm not able to share my screen. I've also put in a kindergarten example because I wanted you to see that you could do, the whole gamut. And I made it something fun with Easter eggs and bunnies and all that. And it was for addition and subtraction. And it came up with a great idea for the kids. Again, things that I may have done 15, 20 years ago that I just forgot about and was like, oh yeah, this is great. But it also gave me new ideas of how I could reach those kids. What's included in that, you saw. There's some hands-on pieces. So we're meeting those kids that have that movement part. You have the kids that like to sit and listen. There might be some video pieces in there or exploration. You have the piece where kids are going to interact in it. So all those things can really be helpful as you're moving towards maybe incorporating PBL into your teaching as well. Okay, Holly, we can go to the next one. Another fantastic resource when we're talking about reaching every student, and I'm actually at a school today where I just was talking to them about AI things, and we mentioned Diffit there as well. And so if you've not heard of Diffit, it's another fantastic resource. And here's the other piece of all this I want to let you know. There's a lot of EdTech AI tools out there. And, I don't want to overwhelm you with possibilities. I want you to find the ones that work for you. You might say, you know what, ChatGPT can do all these things as well. You're absolutely right. It can, so can Claude. So the best thing that I always want to guide people towards is find the resource that works for you and find the one that is really working for your students in your classroom. What's helping them grow as learners? What's helping them ask those critical thinking questions? But with Diffit that you'll see there, it has some great resources built in. Again, it is free. You don't have to buy anything with it. Had a teacher this morning, she goes, I just uploaded a PDF for her 5th graders, and her 5th graders, not all of them are at that 5th grade reading level. So she adjusted the reading level down to a 2nd grade. She quickly got that. So the kids that are at grade level can have that resource. The other kids can get the other resource. So in a matter of seconds, she was able to get a really nice breakdown that she could share with those kids. You can take a YouTube link of a video that you instruct, and you can have it create questions, open-ended questions to have kids think about what it was they watched. You can click the book option. I used the one of James and the Giant Peach this morning, and I said, hey, you're on chapter 4 and 5 of James and the Giant Peach. You tell it what you want it to do. It will even create Google Form quizzes for comprehension check-in for your kids right from Diffit. So Diffit will create Google Slide resources, Google Doc resources, as well as Google Form resources as well. You have the availability in all of these to edit the content that it gives you back. So sometimes, again, there's that human component that has to come in where we say, ooh, I know my kids will not understand how that is put in no terms. you can go in and edit what it says in there, and you can adjust that for your students. This is great because kids, we were just talking about this too, the kids will have no idea that maybe, you know, Holly's here reading the 12th grade version of that leveled text, and I'm sitting down here reading the 2nd grade version. It's so different now than what it was previous years ago with the help of the AI technology and all the tools we have available. So it's so awesome to see that. Okay, you can keep going. Any questions so far on those two, though? I do want to pause just for a second. Feel free to add those in the chat. I can see them in the chat too. So we'll definitely leave some time at the end for questions too. Awesome. Okay. So, and I see on the screen, it might not have loaded up that song. It didn't load up my Suno song on your slide, but that's okay. Hopefully it's on everyone else's. That's okay. Don't worry about it, Holly. So here's the other version that I wanted to kind of show you. So where does AI come in again when I'm talking about, you know, reaching every kid? So here's an example where I started with ChatGPT, and I was asking it to help my elementary age students practice reading and have a leveled text that helps them with the sound of S. And so the thing you might not see on my shared screen, but you should see in your resources, is I took what it gave me. So it gave me some lyrics. Actually, it's a story, but I turned it into lyrics for a song and put it into Suno. So in Suno, which we saw, I think, during our first session, you can copy the actual story that it gave me in ChatGPT and paste it into Suno. And I said, hey, create a kid upbeat version of this. And it turned it into a song. So now my kids are not only reading it, they're going to sing the song that goes with it. And then I took it a step further because I wanted to pull in all those different aspects of my learners' brains. Now, this QR code that you see and that you can also click on that screen takes you out to a resource called Snorkel. And Snorkel allows your students, thanks, Holly, you can click log in as guest, and that would be okay at the bottom. And so what this allows your kids to do at kindergarten level all the way up to adults. So we had adults here today. I created this one on my own, but you could definitely pull from their library. So it's telling Holly that, hey, she's going to listen and record what's happening there. So go ahead and click let's go. And then from there, I took the lyrics and that story that it gave us in ChatGPT. Now I want my kids to practice reading this, but I want to have record of it. So we had the fun of singing it. We had the fun of being able to create it. Now they're going to hit that purple button. They're going to record it. They're going to read it. And then as she's, go ahead and hit that actually, Holly, so you could do it. Maybe. Okay. Maybe it will work. And you don't have to read it, but we'll record it. So as she would be reading it, she also has tools up at the top where she can draw and highlight. So one of the things that the kids could do then would also be to highlight the letters of S. They could find the words that have the S sound in it. And then when she's done recording that, she would hit end and review. And then thanks so much, Holly. And then she's going to just submit it. We could always hear her back, but we'll skip that for today. She'll submit it. And then here's why I included this. So the AI is going to provide feedback to my kids. Now, this is like a first, second grade example, right? So once it creates the feedback for her, she might not be able to read it. So it gives them the option to actually listen to the feedback. And then I, as a teacher, am able to also listen and see her recordings and everyone else in the class that joined. And I can provide my own individual feedback. I can ask them to respond again and practice rereading it again. And the cool thing about this resource is they have it for science, social studies, math, they have it for SEL. There are a ton of already created things that coincide and go with the standards that you're teaching. So there's her feedback. 1 out of 4. She didn't read it, so she highlighted. But that's the huge piece about this. And then also having the emoji, the visual prompts for the kids, and then having the option to have it read to them is so helpful along the way. So if you've not tried that one out and tinkered with it, I do highly suggest that one be awesome. Okay, Holly, we'll jump back to the presentation. Thanks for playing. I appreciate it. All right, so moving on to our next one, the last piece that I wanted to share is, again, each one of these tools out there, because I'll hear with different educators I work with, oh, our school bought Magic School, or our school went with School AI. There is nothing wrong with any of these tools out there. You just have to figure out how to leverage it for you. And also, is it helping you or is it hindering you? So again, using the examples of the teachers I was with this morning, they were really excited to try one of the AI tools, but then as she was practicing going through it, she goes, my kids would take forever to draw that coordinate plane on the computer where I could just give them graph paper. And I said, exactly. So we have to really think about, when is tech helping support and grow our kids and the AI, and when is it hindering what they could do already on paper and pencil? So that's where we really have to think about these tools. Is this really great content that's going to move my kids in the right direction? Or is it something that's going to be more difficult for them to do and make learning harder for them? So just be aware of those things as we work through some of those different tools. Okay, we'll skip on to the next one. So here's the piece where I wanted to mention those accessibility options. So here's some great tools. Not all of them are AI type things, but they are great supports when using AI tools. For example, Read and Write for Google Chrome is fantastic for kids or adults that need anything read to them. So I was thinking of if my kids are using Byte, and that's that one similar to ChatGPT, but with no age restrictions. If they're using that, but they're first graders or they're, kids that can't type very well and they need accommodations, with Read and Write, they can hit the microphone, it can type for them, right? It can also read things back to them on their Chromebook. Helperbird is another Google extension that you can install and use with your students. But to be honest, in the bottom right there, you see the Chromebook accessibility options. So many of our kids have Chromebooks, and there are so many built-in features that they can use. So when we say, well, hey, not all the AI tools read back to them, or not all of them allow them to do text or speech to text type things, they are built into their Chromebooks. You just have to find them and kind of play with them. Tools on the left, if you're an Apple person and you have iPads in your district, the camera can do a lot of great things. If you hold the camera up to any type of typing or any actually handwritten things, you can now actually tap on it and it will read it. It has optical character kind of recognition in it, and it will actually speak it back to the kids. Try it on your phone. If you have an iPhone, you can do that as well. And the other piece Google has built in now is Google Lens. So I was playing with this on my phone last night, and I brought up a homework assignment of my son. And when you load up Google Lens, it gives you the option to search. It actually has an option for homework, so it can help guide kids through the process they need to do to solve that specific problem. So I thought that was pretty amazing because it wasn't just giving the answer, it was helping guide them through the process they would need to figure that answer out. So check out some of those new things. And then that last one, there is an app called Seeing AI. That is not new. That's actually been around for a number of years. And we think AI just came out. No, this has been around for a long time. And it was something we've used with our kids for accessibility years ago. And it allows them, again, to hold the iPad over or a tablet over any kind of handwritten or worksheet. And the Seeing AI will do the same thing. It will read it out loud to them without you having to run it through a scanner or run it through anything like that. So there's a lot of tools out there already. It's just finding where they are and asking the right questions to help your students. Does anyone have any others that have been really helpful for kids that you really love? They're like, yeah, okay, there's a bunch out there. So feel free to add those in. We'll go on to the next slide, Holly, because I know we're getting close to our last part. So just thinking about those, I already mentioned this one. So this was that Byte, which is the great option to use as like a ChatGPT substitute. There's what Read and Write will look like for your kids as well. So I just wanted to kind of show a visual for that. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So we've covered quite a few things in these 4 quick lunch and learns, but I know today is our last one for this, but that doesn't mean we stop learning. So keep moving forward. And we've talked about this already. So AI isn't something new. It's not off in the future. It's here now. So how are we really leveraging it for ourselves? How are we understanding it as adults? And then how are we modeling it for our students at K to 12 and beyond? Because it's going to be in their workforce. It already is in their workforce. I was on the Lowe's website last night. They have a new AI tool that will help you plan things for your kitchen. So holy smokes, like it is in every aspect of the workforce. So keep learning, keep growing. All right, we'll keep going. And definitely, Holly, do you want to mention this and jump in about it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Great.
Just to bring awareness that, these sessions are funded through an Ohio EdTech grant. So PBS Western Reserve is one of the 8 EdTechs in the state. And all of that funding comes from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And so that's how we're able to bring these free sessions to you.
Thanks so much, Holly. And thanks for letting us do these free sessions for everyone as well. All right, we'll go on to the next one. So before we check out for today, I do want to throw in there the Padlet, which we do have resources. They're also on the PBS Western Reserve website. And then I don't think we missed the slide, but let's see if we go one more ahead. Let's see if it's in here. I do want to mention this is the one. Great. If you are in Ohio, which I believe many of you are, we would love to have you join one of our AI summits. You'll see the dates there. They are going to be fabulous. Keynotes are just being introduced and put out there. So if you're able to, join me May 1st in Toledo. But if you're closer to any of those other locations, they will be just as wonderful as well. This is free to attend for all educators. So we hope to see you there. All right. And then last, I just want to thank everyone. You've got my contact information there. We appreciate you taking time to join us during your lunch. And then definitely please reach out with any other questions you have. And we hope you have a fantastic weekend. I'll hang on here for anyone that has any questions. But thank you again, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you, Christine. This was great.
Christine, this is Angie.